Welcome to My Home HQ podcast with Ray Fletcher. Leading the way in buying and selling homes, knowing the current housing market, updating your home without an extensive remodel, or how to stage your home for the perfect sale and more. Portland, Oregon real estate agent Ray Fletcher will bring his 20-plus years experience of real estate, home ownership, and selling homes to you in his bi-monthly podcast. This podcast will be your home headquarters for strategies to achieve success in your real estate investments. Now your host of the podcast, Terry Fletcher.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the My Home HQ podcast. My name is Terry Fletcher, and today we are going to talk about beginners real estate investors. So we know that a lot of people right now are looking at different home shows. They're looking at all kinds of things on TV. They're talking to their friends, their relatives, and they're looking at the economy. And they're saying, well, you know what? I think I'm going to pour my money into real estate and see what I can do there. But there are some mistakes that happen right off the bat with beginning real estate investors. And of course, real estate expert and resident home expert, Portland, Oregon area realtor Ray Fletcher is with me again today, and we're going to talk about those mistakes and just give you some insight on making sure you can safeguard yourself, or at least hopefully understand what could happen if you're not heads up about certain things. So Ray, welcome back to the program.
Thank you.
So I've noticed that when real estate investors get very gung-ho, and now, okay, I'll put it out there. I see a lot of stuff on TV that I know is not true because it's reality TV, correct?
Correct. Very much.
Okay. So I live in a state of reality, so I understand that. But in saying that, I notice that there are some problems that maybe they heighten or make it a little bit more animated on what happens. And one of the things that I've noticed is that you had talked about this in a previous episode as far as inspections, but I noticed that there's actually some additional inspections that maybe some new investors need to be at least cautious about. And one was looking at a sewage line. I saw a story on that could be, a problem because that's not part of a normal home inspection, correct?
Well, it is now, actually.
Okay.
So yeah, sewer scopes are very inexpensive for what you get. They run about $125 to $150, depending on the location of the clean out, which is the trap that you unscrew, you put a camera down there, and then they run the recorded camera all the way to the street, or as far as they can get it. And that's a very important aspect of any inspection now. And if somebody's not, and also on a side note, even new construction, it's very important to make sure that the sewer line was installed correctly and there isn't a bunch of garbage down there, because new construction has a lot of garbage. So that's a very popular inspection, and it should, if their agent isn't promoting it, then, or at least offering it, then that's a problem. So
in a normal home inspection, is the sewer line, is that optional, or is that now part of it that I don't even know who I'd say, the Board of Realtors or the state regulators, who makes sure that these inspections are what they should be? I mean, is it a legal thing, or is it more of an optional thing?
Yeah. So interestingly enough, actually, all inspections are optional. You
Really?
can buy well, again, so here's the thing. And most people get this confused. Appraisals and inspections. Appraisals are mandatory if you're getting a loan from the bank. That is, a licensed appraiser comes out there and tells you the value of your home. An inspection is a licensed inspector, which traditionally they're old contractors. They come out and inspect the home, and they have guidelines from the board of inspectors, and they're regulated that they have to follow, credit hours, all that stuff. Now, what inspections they do, once again, are also voluntary or optional. During the height of the market, 90 plus days ago, to get a home, you could potentially, and I've had to do it, write the offer with no inspection. And the seller or the buyer is risking taking this home as is. It's like buying a car and not checking even the oil.
Wow.
So when we used to do that, now we don't even talk about it. I would walk through the home with the buyers, and hopefully there's a few, and tell them, if you want to bring any family, bring them. Because if we're going to get this home and you're willing to go no inspection, like you told me you are, let's do that inspection right now. And which means we're going to get every set of eyes we have, and we're just going to, and now again, this is really a bad way to go. Every disclosure I could put out there, I do not recommend this. And I'm telling the buyers I don't recommend this, and they're telling me, we know, but we also know the only way to get this home to be competitive, because everybody else is waiving it, is for us to waive it as well. It's not just price.
Wow.
And we would do basically a makeshift inspection, just look at stuff, look at the electrical panel, try to poke our head in the attic if we could, poke our head into the house if we could, and look around. And I would just let them tell me what they thought, because even me giving them inspection advice is a liability.
So they basically like turn on faucets, flush toilets,
Yeah.
just try to do at least a walk around just to make sure certain things work. Because
Yeah.
now the inspection, I've noticed that people who waive it, and like you said, it was at the height of the market, which now obviously it's leveled out quite a bit.
Yeah.
I also see it with these cash only. Is that because they're like coming and going, well, we can anticipate these problems, and we're estimating it might be, $10,000. Are most people that don't get the inspection, are they underestimating what could happen?
Well, I don't know. It just depends on the house.
Yeah.
And every place is different. Now, the cash only, you're now waiving the appraisal. You're not even waiving it. There is no appraisal. You would have to write in the offer that, with your cash offer, that you're still going to get an appraisal, because that's an inspection. And then on another note, when we do inspections, there's inspection called invasive inspections, and that's the term. That's a sewer scope.
Okay.
That's considered invasive. Radon. So a radon test, which is very popular, especially in Oregon, you could have radon at one home and not another. And it's below grade areas that people live in, like a basement. You put this machine there and it measures the air for the course of 48 hours. You can't open up any windows or doors. And that is a big factor too. That's another test that was being waived. And radon, if you just Google what it does to you, it can make you crazy. Radon's
Now, is
a
part of
real
an
ailment.
inspection mold at all, or no?
Yeah. So mold, you test mold if you see mold.
Okay.
So in the attic, if you're up there and you see black marks, black streaks on the rafters, because maybe this home doesn't have any insulation or what have you, and you can actually see it, or it's on the insulation, then you can go ahead and get the mold tested and then mediated. All these things, every part of the inspection, even if it's the worst case scenario, is really fixable. And then one other inspection is an oil tank locate. So back in the day, when we would have our heat is oil, we would bury a tank in the ground, and there'd be a fill cap that the truck would come and fill your tank full of oil. And those now, they tend to leak because they've been there for 100 years potentially with what year we are at now. And so you get a locate search. They run out there, they look for it, they pull all these records and see if they can find one. And if they do find one, then you have to get the dirt around it tested.
Okay. So basically, for you're talking about, and this is a great episode, because I want listeners to hear what you're saying, that especially for new investors, you're going to use this as a property, you're going to rent out to people, get these inspections, right?
100%. And as an investor, unless you are a seasoned investor, you have your all your contractors lined up, and you know what you're doing, I would highly recommend, do not buy a home without these inspectors as a new investor. If you can't get it because you got outbid by lack of inspections, well, it's fine. You're not ready. Let's keep looking. Find a place that does work for your budget and the seller is willing to accept an offer, because it's not as competitive. And again, the previous days are I would say they're pretty much over with waiving inspections. So the inspections for a new investor, would be potential inspection, would be oil tank, radon, sewer, and then just your basic whole home inspection. And then you're dealing with, are we dealing multifamily? So now you have 2 sewer lines. I mean, there's other factors too.
Well, the one thing that you also mentioned that didn't, it actually didn't occur to me till you said it, is that as just, let's say I'm a potential buyer, and somebody who I would say dabbles in real estate through osmosis through you. I mean, I don't know as much that you do, obviously, 1%, but I love real estate. That's why I really wanted to do this podcast with you. But I wouldn't know what mold looks like. So when you said, you look up, you're looking for certain things. Is that why when you do, let's say that you're not doing a formal inspection, but let's say you're doing a walkthrough inspection, you really should do it with your realtor?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
'Cause you know
yes,
what to look
yes, you should. Again, I'm not supposed to be giving that kind of advice because
Okay.
I'm not an inspector, and there would be some major liability. But I mean, again,
But
every
you said
buyer's,
you've said in no under certain terms
yeah,
that inspection, you wouldn't buy something without it. So
correct.
okay. So moving
Yeah.
on to from that inspection part, but I'm thinking of older homes,
Yeah.
and is one thing on the inspection list, is it the roof? Is that part of it too?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a whole home inspection is from top to bottom, and traditionally they work top to bottom. I mean, I can show up if an inspection's scheduled for 10 a.m., I can show up at 10:45 because they get started on the exterior first. And then I
Okay.
come over and let them in and then just wait until they're finished. And then we go, how the process is you get the inspection and then we go over the inspection with the potential owner. And then the owner and I go over what is the most important factors. And my goal is to make it to where we offered this much for the home and this is what we expected. Now, if we went to the home on our first initial preview of it, and we know the roof may last 5 years, we know the hot water heater, it's probably end of life. These things, because let's say you're looking at a 1970s duplex for an investment property or something like that. Our offer, my discussion with my buyers is, we know we're going to need a roof. You're probably going to need a hot water heater. You're going to need these certain things. So let's make our offer like that. And when the inspection comes back and confirms what we already know, unfortunately, now I have to remind them what our offer was based on instead of them going, yeah, we'll take care of that because we discussed that. Most people are like, oh no, now the reality really set in. Now I do have to come up with $500 for a hot water heater or whatever
Right.
they were,
You're like,
things
that's
like
why we
that.
lowballed the offer. Yeah.
Correct.
For credit.
And on the flip side, when I'm representing a seller and people do that, I have to remind the buyer's agent, hey, let's not forget. And then we go from there.
Okay. So now I noticed that a lot of, because of the shows called Fixer Upper, and I say that
Yeah.
generally, a lot of new investors think because they can get something a lot cheaper than a newer home, and I'm not saying newer like within the last 10 years,
Yeah.
but they sometimes purchase an older home, and just like a possible sewer line could break, or you have this old roof or whatever, one thing I've noticed is that they don't seem to remember to check, and I'm going to use an acronym that I think I know what it means, but I'm going to let you elaborate.
Sure.
HVAC. So let me
Yeah.
let me think if I can guess at this.
Yeah.
Heating, ventilation, air conditioning?
Yeah.
Oh, sweet. I get the Jeopardy question.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me about HVAC, because to me, I thought those start at like $20,000 to fix. So in older homes, what are those problems?
So older home, now again, depending on the year, if you go way back, now you're dealing with an oil heating system, which traditionally would be replaced. So backtrack a little bit. If this is the first time new investor beginner podcast or conversation we're having, I would want the first time home investor to buy something that is extremely low maintenance. So you look at the home and you go, okay, let's say I'm going to rent this home to a young family with 2 kids, both parents work, and we've all had children. They can be hard on things. And so you want to look at the most low maintenance house that you can buy to be a rental. So Preferably no fireplace. Gas is fine, but you don't want a wood fireplace. And so you look at the HVAC system, you're going to want a basic furnace that can be gas or electric. It does, I mean, gas is preferred, but gas or electric. And you're going to want to make sure that if it doesn't have any service records, well, then it's less than 20 years old, because that's your end of life. It's about 30 years is what they traditionally say.
Do they have those service records, or do you see the service records
somewhere? You don't. So what you'll see is on the actual furnace, and check your own out. And if you don't have one, start today. There should be basically a sticker on there that has service date and an initial, and that's it. And then whoever services it just writes on there. Newer furnaces are not that difficult. You change the filter, you blow out all the carbon in there in the lines or cobwebs or whatever in the fire bay, and you move on. And then you service the AC and all that stuff. So if there's service records, an older furnace can last a long time. If there isn't, then traditionally it's been struggling. Maybe they didn't change the filter. Filters are not that expensive. I change mine every 90 days. Some people do 6 months.
I remember you telling me that a couple of years ago, and I'm like, I don't know. And you pulled it out, and you're like, Terry, 2011, really?
Yeah,
so now I change them every 90 days.
Yeah, that was wild. And once again, going back to budget on just a general side note, go on Amazon, type in your filter size, buy a pack of 6.
I know, they're cheap.
They're real cheap. Now, there's levels to this. Again, you can buy a pack of 6 that are very expensive, and sure. But I like to change mine out so much. And I've got standalone air filters in my house anyway. So, yeah.
But for a new home buyer that's looking, a new investor, I kind of keep going back to that, you would say, okay, so if you have a choice and there's a fixer-upper of a 1920s house versus a 1960s house versus a 1980s house, you would say, because of the maintenance, an 80s house would probably be the better option if it's closer to their budget.
A new investor, I would say that's the only option.
Okay.
I just wouldn't I mean, when you're dealing with anything older than the 80s, you're dealing with windows now.
Oh, right.
That need to be replaced, that are they're not even double pane if you're going beyond that. So new as possible, and go from there. I highly recommend somebody and again, I tried to get your daughter to do this, but she wanted no part of it. And I still highly recommend that a brand new buyer get their first home a duplex, live on one side, rent the other, and then within a year, move out and buy your next home. And that's how I think you can really build some real good equity. And again, you're 24, 25.
Right.
You're going to be 26. Now you might be getting married soon and have children. Well, now it's time to not live in a duplex. But now you move out, you can borrow against your duplex. The rent still should cover. Now, I think we might have talked about this earlier. Housing prices are going down. Rents are still going up.
They are. I know.
And so if your daughter right now had a duplex and her current home, she'd be like, this is the greatest thing ever.
That's the greatest thing ever. I know, right? And
so it's hard to do, and I'm not in denial. That's very hard to do. But if that's what you're going to do, then people will do it.
Now, talking about these investments, and I think this is where the third one that we'll kind of wrap it up with, and I know this one might take a little bit of conversation on. So investment properties for rentals, you mentioned rents are going up, and I've noticed something that I've never seen before, and I saw this in one of the real estate magazines, and I thought I'd bring it to your attention. That a couple things. First of all, I think sometimes and you can correct me if I'm wrong for sure, that the new investors think that, I'm going to get this house and I'm going to rent it out. They think that their rental income is going to start tomorrow. And they have to still do some minimal renovations to after purchase, especially if it's a little bit of an older home. Plus, isn't there a process of getting tenants and approved and vetted and moved in? And I mean, there's a lot that goes into renting out a place.
Yeah.
And it seems like I'm not seeing that people are smart about their time frames. Can you kind of comment on that?
Yeah, so a couple ways. Some of these places that you may get into already have tenants in it, so you're taking them over. And if you're taking them over, traditionally, you're taking over, they're not paying market rent. I mean, that's traditional. Most people are paying under. And here in Oregon, we have caps. It's about 9%.
Okay.
That you can only raise the rent 9% a year. And who wants to raise somebody's rent 20%, even though it could? So ideally, you want to get a place that's vacant. So let's work our things off of that. So you get the place, you close. Once you close, you are correct. You got to go in. Most likely, you're going to want to paint, do some flooring work, and just make sure that the home is ready to market. And now you got to decide, am I going to get a property manager? Because who's going to vet the potential renters? Who's going to run their credit? How are you going to run their credit? Are you going to, do you have those resources? So you're going to want to talk with, regardless if you use them, a property management company, and they take anywhere from 5 to 10% of the rent they get, of the rent they get you.
Because there's an application, proof of income, and then bank statements, all that kind of that goes into that, right?
Correct. And then once you do get the person in, then they deal with any repairs that need to be made. What they do is they also work on the deposits that you get, and they hold those in an account. And then if your hot water heater goes bad, this renter is not calling you at 5 a.m. when you're trying to get ready to go to work. They're calling the property management company. So once again, you got to look at how handy are you to be able to handle the repairs. And then also you could probably work something out with your property manager going, okay, I want your help to fill the place. What would that cost me? Look at like an a la carte situation.
Okay.
And then that could take, it could take 30 days. It won't take 30 days to actually rent, but the process after you get the person you want could take another 2 weeks.
So should somebody be basically marketing for renters before the renovations are done, or no?
Yes, I would. Yeah, I think I would get, once you close. So here's how I would work it. You get an accepted offer, you're past your inspections, and now it's just a matter of the appraisal and closing. I would be in touch with my property management company the day I'm past my inspections. And then I would want to get their feedback and they get them to start talking to me about how much they think they can get for it. And what do they think this place needs best based on their expertise. Our expertise on what a place needs to be rented might be different than what somebody does it for a living. And we always walk in and go, oh, you got to replace, clean, this and that. They may go in going, the market is so hot. Let's get it really, really clean. Let's make sure all the system would work really, really well. And let's just get it rented.
Okay. Now, this is a touchy subject, but
yeah.
let's say you were an investor, and I know you are, and you are renting out a property. Do you allow pets?
Yeah, you kind of look
at small one.
Yeah,
a little one.
You do. Again, you do. Yeah.
You do? Okay.
Yeah, you do.
Okay. I just know that when that person leaves or moves out, then you've got to deal, like you were saying, you definitely probably want to paint or change flooring. And if there's carpet anywhere and that person had pets, or, you tell people, I'd prefer you not smoke in here, and then you have to deal with that as well, because that goes into the walls and the carpet and let's face it, anything.
Yeah, there'd be 100% no smoking. Not up for debate.
Can you do that in a rental? You can do that in a house. I know you can do it, on an airplane or in a restaurant, but you can do that in a house too?
Oh, for sure.
Okay, cool.
Pets, you can do that. I just wouldn't. I like dogs, even though I don't have a dog. But you also have to factor in, that's the cost of the rental. Plan on once and you're hoping to get the perfect tenant. You're hoping to get somebody that treats the home like their own. And again, in your mind, you're like, this is a partnership between me and this person. Now, that's a dream. It doesn't normally happen, but that's what you're looking for. You're looking for somebody that will mow, so you don't have to get a lawn service in. You're going to leave a mower there for them, those type of things.
Oh, right.
But once they're done, you need to plan on paint and carpet, no matter what.
Right. Well, it's funny because I was thinking about the pet thing, and I remember when Summer was in her apartment when she first moved out, to Arizona, she just had a pet deposit. I remember when we had our cat in our condo, there was a pet deposit, but now there's pet rent, where one of our friends, their daughter just moved out, and she can't believe she's paying $3,200 a month for a 2-bedroom, 2-bath. She had to get a roommate because she couldn't afford it on her own. Yeah. But she pays rent for her cat. She's like, well, they told us at first it was just going to be a $100 deposit, but now it's $35 a month plus the deposit. Yeah. So cats are paying rent. Well, they're not paying, but obviously the renter's paying for the cat as well. And I was just like, wow, now they're paying rent as well.
Correct. And and it's just another thing that just kind of piles on. It's not great out there for renters right now. It's very, very difficult. And they want to buy. But again, everything's difficult right now.
Tough. Yeah. So I saw this one thing, and when I mentioned the article I was reading in a Realtor magazine, I thought this was interesting, and I've never heard about this before. Maybe you have. So it was a new investor, and he bought a home, and he bought it in a university community, so college community. And he basically acquired this property, and they usually were 3-bedroom, 2 baths, and then rented out each bedroom. Basically, strangers are living together, and he's renting out bedrooms. Have you heard about that before?
Yes, for sure.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'd want to move in with somebody or want my kid moving in with somebody that she doesn't know.
Yeah. Well, I think I know of it. I've never experienced it. And I'm assuming that they must. Yeah, I've heard of it. I don't know it.
Yeah,
I actually always thought that one person's renting it and then they go out and get the rest.
Yeah, I was just reading that this person bought the house, and then he did get a management company, and then they basically would vet the tenants, which most of them are students, and then plan everything around the academic calendar, and kind of figure out who has to pay more rent if they've got the master and all that kind of, it's primary, all the new language now and what things are called. But it was just an interesting concept, and I just I was trying to figure out how to get my head around that as far as because investment means return on investment, right?
Correct.
Where's your return there when it's students?
Oh, well, I mean, most of the students are not paying. It's the parents.
It's the parents. Well,
and so the parents are the ones that are actually filling out the paperwork as well. And if the student is filling out the paperwork, it means they're pretty responsible. So, I mean, I think that, and you're able to get, so if a home traditionally could get $2,000 a month, and it's 3 bedrooms, 2 bath. Now, if you're able to get $700 a room, $800 a room, I mean, again, there's definitely a bigger increase. Now, if it's everybody's partying and doing what they do in college, well, you're going to have way more maintenance when it's over. And on a side note, all the maintenance is 100% write-off.
Oh, it is tax deductible.
It's all tax deductible. Every aspect of it, it goes right off the top of the income made. If somebody moves out and you made you've received $24,000 worth of rent, well, you have to put in $5,000 worth of carpet. Well, now you've only received 19. So, I mean, again, it's right off the top, and any accountant makes that very clear.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, I love this topic, and I'm hoping to expand further in our next podcast episodes. And so for the listeners, I know you got a lot of benefit from this. I know now I want to go out and invest in rental property and see what we can do from that. And so Ray and I'll be expanding on that next month as we talk about, again, investor and real estate and home buying and selling, and just making sure that you're making the right choices when it comes to your real estate options. So Ray, again, thank you for joining me in this next episode, and we'll see you next month.
Sounds great. Thank you.
All right, everyone, make it a great rest of your month, and happy Halloween, as we are now way into and deep into October, and we look forward to talking to you again in November. So make it a great day, great rest of your month, and thank you for listening to the My Home HQ podcast with Ray Fletcher.
Thank you for listening to My Home HQ podcast with Ray Fletcher. Drop us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Check out our website and blog at www.rayfletcher.biz. Or contact Ray directly at realtorrayf@gmail.com to also subscribe to his weekly newsletter.